Ladies, let me tell y'all something real tonight. You wanna know what men really fear about you? Now, I ain't talking about snakes, bills, or baby mamas. No, no, no. I'm talking about you. Yeah, you. Because listen to me when I say this. It ain't your hips, your lips, or that dress you rockin'. It's your presence. It's the power you walk in that scares the hell out of us. Let's start with this one right here. Confidence. Oh, Chili, a confident woman, phew. See, we can admire beauty from a distance, but when you got that walk, that smile, and that I know who I am attitude, that's what makes a man sweat in a tailored suit. Confidence is louder than curves, I'm telling you. When a woman walks in like she owns the room, baby, you don't even have to say a word. That energy speaks louder than anything. Now here's another thing. We fear a woman who knows her worth. You know why? Because she ain't playing no games. She not gonna beg you. She not gonna chase you. She don't need no attention. You either show up or she shows you the door. That kind of strength, phew. That ain't weakness, baby. That's royalty. And you know what kings fear. A queen that don't need the crown to know she royalty. And let me just be real. Men don't do vulnerability like y'all do. Nah, we got egos. So when you start seeing through our smile, through that I'm good front, when you really see us, that's when fear sets in. Cause now we exposed, and a strong woman don't just see a man, she sees the boy in him. That's terrifying, but let me hit y'all with this last one. Independence. Oh Lord, you got your own place, your own money, your own peace. Phew, now we sittin' there asking ourselves, what does she need me for? See, a man wanna feel needed, but a woman who chooses you even though she don't need you, now that's next level. So don't ever shrink, ladies. Don't dim your light cause it makes some men squint. If your power scares him, he ain't your king. Be bold, be brilliant, be you, cause that. That's what they really fear. Men fear your confidence more than your beauty. That's a truth a lot of people don't talk about, but let's bring it into the light today. See, beauty is something that can be admired, complimented, even desired. But confidence, that's a whole different story. Confidence is a force. It doesn't ask for permission, it doesn't beg for attention, and it doesn't need validation. A confident woman walks into the room and the air changes. She might not say a word, but everybody notices. And most of all, men notice. And not just in an admiring way. Some of them, deep down, are actually scared. You have to understand how society has shaped this. Men are often told they're supposed to lead, to be the stronger one, to be the provider, the protector, the one in control. So when a woman walks in who doesn't need any of that, who doesn't wait to be chosen but instead chooses for herself, it shakes a man's sense of position. Confidence says, I know who I am, I know what I want, and I'm not afraid to walk away if it doesn't serve me. That kind of self-assurance is powerful, and power makes people uncomfortable when they're not used to it coming from someone else. A confident woman doesn't chase, she doesn't beg, she doesn't shrink herself to make others feel big. She knows that her worth isn't tied to someone else's opinion of her. She stands tall in rooms where others might crumble. She speaks up when silence is easier. She sets boundaries that might make people uncomfortable, but that's only because they're used to walking over people who don't know how to say no. And that's exactly what some men fear, being told no by a woman who doesn't depend on them for happiness, for value, or for direction. Let me tell you, there's a big difference between a pretty woman and a powerful woman. A pretty woman gets attention. A confident woman commands respect. You see the difference. Beauty fades, but confidence, that's built. That's earned through years of struggle, through setbacks, through lessons, through rejection, and still choosing to believe in yourself. That's the kind of woman who knows she's the table, not just bringing something to it. She is the moment, and when men come across that, if they're not secure in who they are, it can feel like a threat. Now a real man, a grown man, an evolved man, he won't be scared of your confidence. He'll be drawn to it. He'll respect it. He'll celebrate it. But let's be honest, not every man is there. Some are still figuring themselves out, still trying to find their own value, still learning how to handle a woman who doesn't need fixing, saving, or permission. That's when fear shows up. That's when they start labeling confident women as too much, too loud, too independent, or too strong. But really, it's not about you being too much. It's about them not being enough for the version of you that's already healed, whole, and walking in her purpose. Confidence is what makes you walk away from disrespect, from inconsistency, from half, love, and almost commitments. Confidence is what keeps your standards high, not because you're picky, but because you've done the work to know what you deserve. And that's what some men really fear, that they can't just slide into your life with charm and good looks and expect you to settle. You've outgrown all that. You're looking for real, for depth, for consistency, for a partner, not a project. And let's not forget, confidence is contagious. When a woman carries herself with self-belief, she inspires others to do the same, and that influence, that quiet, unwavering energy is powerful. It shakes systems, it changes conversations, it shifts expectations, and it makes people, especially men who are used to control, very uncomfortable. But here's the truth. That's not your problem. You're not responsible for how someone reacts to your light. You're only responsible for not dimming it to make others comfortable. So, when they look at you with that uneasy glance, when they try to minimize your achievements or mock your dreams, just know that's not rejection. That's fear. That's their own insecurity realizing that you don't need them to validate your existence. You already did that for yourself. You earned your voice. You earned your power. And if that scares someone, let it. Because confidence isn't about being better than anyone else. It's about being at peace with who you are. And nothing is more powerful or more feared than a woman who truly knows her worth and isn't afraid to walk in it. Men fear losing control when a woman knows her worth. That fear doesn't come from a place of strength. It comes from a place of uncertainty. For generations, the dynamic between men and women has been shaped by an unspoken rule. The man leads, the woman follows. The man decides, the woman accepts. But times have changed. Women have grown, evolved, and awakened to their power. And when a woman stands firm in her value, not allowing herself to be swayed by sweet words, manipulation, or emotional games, it disrupts that outdated control. That's what some men fear, not the woman herself, but the loss of dominance they once held over her emotions and choices. Knowing your worth means you're no longer willing to settle for less than you deserve. It means you've taken the time to heal, to grow, to reflect, and to rise. You've learned the hard way what it feels like to give too much to someone who gave too little in return. So now, when someone steps to you, you're not desperate for their attention or approval. You're observing, evaluating, and protecting your peace. That shift in energy changes everything. You're not asking to be loved. You're deciding if someone is capable of loving you the way you require. That's the part that shakes certain men to their core, because control comes in many forms. Sometimes it's about deciding where the relationship goes. Other times it's about being the emotional center, the one who gets to dictate how much closeness, honesty, and vulnerability is shared. But when you know your worth, you don't wait around for crumbs. You don't tolerate being on the back burner. You demand consistency, you require respect, and you make it clear that your love is not a prize to be won. It's a responsibility to be honored. That kind of strength can't be manipulated, it can't be gaslighted, and it definitely can't be controlled. See, when you didn't know your worth, they had access. They could cancel plans and come back with apologies. They could ignore your feelings and still expect loyalty. They could disappear and return like nothing happened, and you'd still make room for them. But now that you've risen into the woman who sees her value clearly, you're not available like that anymore. You're not picking up calls at 2 a.m. You're not entertaining excuses. You're not afraid to walk away when something doesn't feel right. And that scares a man who thrives on control, because now the power isn't in his hands anymore, it's in yours. Men often mistake submission for love and silence for peace, but a woman who knows her worth doesn't shrink to keep the peace. She speaks up, sets boundaries, and walks away if those boundaries are crossed. That's not drama, that's self-respect, and it threatens anyone who once relied on your silence to keep doing wrong. They say you've changed, and you have. You've changed from being accessible to being selective, from being needy to being whole, from being dependent to being centered in your truth. That transformation is powerful, but to a man who still wants to hold the strings, it's terrifying. And here's the thing, when a woman operates from a place of worth, she can't be emotionally manipulated. Love bombing doesn't work, breadcrumbing doesn't work, ghosting and reappearing doesn't work. She sees through the games, she reads energy, she listens to patterns, not just promises. That awareness puts her in a position of strength, and that strength takes away the old game of control. Because now it's not about how much you like him, it's about whether he can step up and meet you where you already are. And if he can't, you won't beg him to stay. You'll let him go, and that's what they fear most. Knowing your worth also means you know what you bring to the table. You bring love, loyalty, wisdom, compassion, drive, ambition, and peace. And if someone isn't ready to handle that, you don't try to shrink yourself to fit in their limited view. You stay elevated. That creates a pressure for them to rise or exit. But they no longer get to decide your value. That's already been established. You are the storm and the calm, the challenge and the reward. The question and the answer, you know your worth, and in that knowing you become untouchable by anyone who hoped to control your light instead of rise with it. That's the fear, not your strength, not your independence, but the fact that you now see yourself clearly. Because once a woman realizes she is enough all by herself, no one can ever use fear, doubt, or scarcity to keep her in place again. She moves with purpose, not desperation. She loves with standards, not conditions. And any man who was only comfortable when you didn't know your power, he won't know what to do when you finally stand in it. Men fear emotional exposure, not because women are doing something wrong, but because most men were never taught how to sit with their own feelings, let alone share them. From the time they were young, many boys were told to man up, don't cry, and stay tough. Vulnerability was painted as weakness, so when a woman comes into their life and creates a space that feels emotionally safe, when she sees them, really sees them, it stirs something deep and unfamiliar. It can feel like standing in front of a mirror with no place to hide, and that kind of naked honesty, that kind of emotional closeness, it terrifies a lot of men, even if they don't know how to say it. A woman who is emotionally intelligent, who listens with intention, who asks questions that go beneath the surface, has the ability to touch parts of a man that he's buried for years. She can detect pain in his smile. She can sense the story behind his silence. She doesn't just hear his words, she feels the emotion behind them. That emotional X-ray vision might sound beautiful, but for someone who's been hiding behind a wall his whole life, it's overwhelming. It feels like losing control over a part of himself he doesn't fully understand. When a man is emotionally exposed, he's confronted with the parts of himself he's worked hard to avoid. Fear, shame, trauma, disappointment. The boy inside who never got to cry, who never got hugged when he needed it most. And when a woman looks him in the eyes and says, "I see you," and not just the polished, well-dressed version, but the whole truth of him, that's when fear creeps in, not because she did anything wrong, but because she saw him too clearly, too deeply. And that depth feels dangerous to someone who's been living on the surface. It's not that men don't want to be loved or understood. They do. But many haven't had the practice or the space to be vulnerable. They've had to be providers, protectors, fighters, never showing weakness. And now here comes this woman, soft yet strong, saying, "You can let that go around me." And he wants to believe her. He wants to lean in. But leaning in means letting go of the armor, and letting go of the armor means admitting it was needed in the first place. That's a hard truth. It requires a level of self-reflection that not every man is ready for. The irony is, most women aren't trying to fix men. They just want honesty. They just want depth. They want to connect in a way that's real, raw, and meaningful. But when a man hasn't done his inner work, that kind of connection feels like a risk. He doesn't know how to respond to someone who doesn't just want his body, his money, or his image, but who wants his truth. And when he realizes he can't fake depth with her, he pulls away. He might even say, "You're too intense," or "You're too emotional." But what he's really saying is, "You make me feel things I don't know how to handle." Emotional exposure also means accountability, because once someone sees into you, once someone knows your wounds and patterns, you can't hide behind excuses anymore. A woman who sees your emotional world will challenge you to heal, to grow, to show up fully, and growth is uncomfortable, especially when you've spent years pretending you didn't need it. She might say, "Why do you always shut down when you're upset?" Or, "Why can't you open up to me when I'm trying to love you?" And he doesn't have answers, not because he doesn't care, but because he's never had to face those questions before. So what does he do? He distances himself. He distracts, he goes silent, he makes her feel like she's asking too much when in truth she's just asking for honesty. And the sad part is, some of these men do love these women deeply, but love without emotional availability creates a cycle of confusion and pain. It's not that he doesn't care, it's that he's scared. Scared of what will come up if he finally lets the walls fall. Scared of being seen not as a perfect man, but as a human being with flaws and fears. When a woman keeps showing up emotionally open, spiritually aware, and ready to connect, it shines a light on everything he's been hiding. And that light can feel blinding. That's why men fear emotional exposure. Not because of what the woman does, but because of what she awakens inside them. She becomes a mirror, a truth, teller, and a safe place. And for a man who's only ever felt safe behind walls, that's one of the most frightening things in the world. Men fear being replaced by your independence. That fear runs deeper than pride. It's tied to identity, purpose, and value. For a long time, many men have been conditioned to believe their worth in a relationship is directly tied to being needed, not just wanted, but needed. Needed to pay the bills, to solve problems, to provide direction, to lead the way. So, when a woman comes into his life who has built her own life, created her own success, and found her own voice, it triggers something he may not even understand. He starts questioning what role he's supposed to play now. Because if she doesn't need him to survive, to lead, or to fix anything, then where does he fit in? That's not about arrogance. It's about fear. Fear of being unnecessary. Fear of being sidelined. Because independence changes the rules. It shifts the power dynamics. A woman who knows how to take care of herself, who handles her business, who has her own money, peace, and direction. She's not staying in a relationship out of dependency. She's staying because she chooses to. And that's a scary reality for someone who only knows how to feel valuable when someone else is relying on them. Men have been taught to measure their masculinity by what they can provide. So when they meet a woman who already provides for herself, financially, emotionally, spiritually, it challenges their role. Now it's not about being the provider, it's about being the partner, and partnership. That's harder. It requires emotional presence, accountability, growth, and mutual respect. It's no longer about saving someone, it's about building with someone, and for a man who hasn't done the inner work, that shift can feel threatening. Your independence makes him reflect on himself. It makes him think about what he brings to the table besides a paycheck or protection. It forces him to consider, can he offer emotional safety? Can he support your dreams without feeling small? Can he celebrate your wins without making them about him? Can he step up, not just as a man, but as an equal? If the answer is, I don't know, then fear creeps in. He may not say it out loud, but inside, he's wondering if he can keep up. Not just with your lifestyle, but with your growth. And the truth is, independent women don't settle. They don't stay in relationships out of fear or convenience. They've built lives that make them happy. They've learned how to enjoy their own company, pursue their goals, and protect their peace. That means the bar is higher not because they're demanding, but because they've done the work. They're not looking for someone to complete them. They're looking for someone to complement them. Someone who can match their energy, not drain it. Someone who enhances their life, not complicates it. And that expectation, that level of self-worth, that's intimidating to a man who's only comfortable when he feels superior. When a woman is truly independent, she's not afraid to walk away. She knows her peace is more valuable than forced love. She doesn't stay for potential, she stays for action. That kind of woman won't be controlled, manipulated, or convinced to stay in a situation that doesn't feed her soul. She's not trying to prove her worth. She already knows it, and that knowledge makes her powerful. It also makes her a mystery to men who are used to having the upper hand through control or financial power. This is why some men try to make independent women feel guilty. They'll say things like, "You act like you don't need anyone," or "You're too proud," or "You're too strong." But what they're really saying is, "I don't know how to feel important in your life unless you depend on me." And instead of rising to meet her where she is, they try to shrink her down. They try to make her believe that her strength is a flaw, that her ambition is a threat, that her boundaries are rejection. But that's not love. That's fear dressed as ego. A woman's independence should never be seen as competition. It's a gift. It means she can love freely, without strings. It means she can build with you, not because she needs to, but because she wants to. But only a man who is secure in himself, who has done the inner work, who understands partnership, not control, can truly appreciate that, because he doesn't fear being replaced. He trusts in his value, not in her dependency. That's the kind of man who thrives beside a powerful woman. The rest, they'll always see your independence as a threat, when in reality, it's the very thing that proves you're ready for real love. So let me leave you with this. Ladies, your power is not something to be hidden, softened, or apologized for. It's something to be honored. The right man won't fear your strength, he'll celebrate it. He won't run from your truth, he'll stand beside it. If a man is intimidated by your standards, your independence, your emotional depth, or your worth, it's not your job to dim your light. It's his job to rise into his own. Stop shrinking to fit someone else's comfort zone. The man who's truly for you won't be scared of who you are. He'll be inspired by it. Because real men don't fear powerful women. They choose them, protect them, and build with them. So keep standing tall, keep walking in your truth, and never let fear, his or yours, determine your worth. You are not too much. You are just enough for the one who's ready.